Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Dr. Finance Live podcast. This is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV here, also known as Dr. Finance. Folks, what a special treat today. We got a special guest for you, Robert G. Allen, also known as Bob Allen. Robert is an incredible author of all sorts of incredible books, but two of the books that he is famous for is first one, well, actually, No Money Down is one of his first books. We're going to talk about that. Real estate book, a great real estate book. Very interesting. We're going to dissect it, actually. I have a real estate background, so I want to love to talk about that. But another book that I just can't help hearing enough of is Multiple Streams of Income, folks. This book is a national bestseller, sold over, I believe, 1 million+ copies. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But, you know, just incredible game changer for many people. So with that said, welcome, Bob. How are you, sir?
Tony, it's good to see you and your audience. Welcome, everybody. We're going to talk about money. We're going to talk about financial freedom and how to change your life. So all kinds of things we're going to talk about in our call today.
It's incredible. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate you. So first of all, I want to honor you for being here. Like you're a legend beyond legends in the book space, especially in the nonfiction business section. I mean, your book has dominated that industry for a long time. I've had so many references to you, and I want to also give a shout out to Ken Foster for making this happen. Ken, good buddy of mine. So
Absolutely.
Good buddy both of us.
I've known Ken for many, many years, and it was his recommendation that put us together. I love Ken. He's awesome.
Thank you, Bob. So Bob, if you can, maybe a 30-second snapshot can you provide for for the audience? Just let them know like a little bit about yourself. Better job than I did, and then we'll get right into your story afterwards.
Everybody has a story, and my story starts when I graduated with my MBA, and nobody was hiring that year. It was a terrible recession, and I couldn't get a job. And with an MBA, I couldn't find a job. And I'd read a book called How I Turned $1,000 into $1 million in Real Estate in My Spare Time by, I'll think of his name. And I thought, well, I've got $1,000 my dad gave me for graduation. Maybe I'll just take this $1,000 and go out and buy some real estate, you know? And I don't really want a job anyway. Do I really want to work for somebody else for the rest of my life? No, I was an entrepreneur. I didn't realize that at the time, but I was an entrepreneur. So I went out and bought my first property with that $1,000, and that turned into $7,000, which I put into a 7-unit apartment building, and that, you know, increased dramatically. And I bought a 12-unit apartment building and a 40-unit apartment building, and another 12-unit and a 10-unit, and a whole bunch of houses. And within 3-4 years, I was a millionaire. And then I had this dream to write a book. My mentor was Stephen Covey, and he taught at BYU, Brigham Young University, where I graduated. And as I sat in his class, he made us write down our goals, and I had 3 goals: to go scuba diving, to go parachuting, and to write a book. And therefore, when I had accomplished this $1 million net worth goal of mine, I thought, well, now it's time to check it off the list. I'd been parachuting, I'd been scuba diving, so let's write a book. And I didn't realize it would be anything, any major project, but Nothing Down came out of it. And Nothing Down, this is Nothing Down for the 2000s, but Nothing Down came out in 1980. So that's 42 years ago. And believe it or not, I still get royalties from that crazy book that sold over 1 million copies, #1 New York Times bestseller. Anyway, that put me on the path to not only investing in real estate, but what I prefer to do, frankly, is I like to do what I'm doing right here with you. I like to mentor with people. I like to coach people. I like to inspire people. I like to inform people. And, you know, as I've often said, I'd rather fix up a human being than a piece of real estate any day. So that's why I'm on this call. I'm 74 now, and I'm still full of energy and still out there sharing this message worldwide. So I hopefully our audience today will consist of a handful of people who are looking for a solution, a way to get ahead in life. And let's talk about that.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. That was an excellent snapshot. And yeah, I didn't know you were #1 New York Times bestseller. That's a very rare Many people, well, not many, very limited, get
The
into the
next
New
book
York
was
Times.
#1 also. Creating Wealth also #1.
Oh, wow.
And the 1 Minute Millionaire didn't hit #1, but it hit number like 10, I think. 1 Minute Millionaire. And so, yeah, I've been out there. Millions and millions of copies sold, and thousands of success stories. It just stuns me, when somebody comes up to me and says, it was your book that changed my life. And I say, no, 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 it was my book that was the catalyst. That you had to do the work. You had to take the risk. You had to make the investments. And so that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Bob, I want to just mention a quick, interesting footnote I figured out earlier this week. Okay, so I think you'll like this. So last week I interviewed Stephen Covey, right? Stephen Covey IV, and he's got a cool book series out there, Trust and Inspire. And his dad, was your mentor.
Yeah.
So then Tuesday, I interviewed Tim Story. Now, Tim Story is one of Oprah's great friends, and he looks up to you, like he loves your book. He says your book changed his life, right? So fast forward, we got today, you're here, and it's like 3 in a row, and then like you guys are becoming my mentors. So I didn't plan this at all. It was just an amazing lineup of back-to-back podcast episodes, and it's just so interesting, the dynamics here, how everyone fits together. And together you're all changing the world. So
Yeah. So Ken Foster brought us together.
right.
And I have a quote that you've heard this quote a million times, but I love it. I've memorized it. Until one is committed, there is hesitancy, the chance to draw back, always ineffectiveness. Concerning all acts of initiative and creation, there is one elementary truth, the ignorance of which kills countless ideas and splendid plans, that the moment one definitely commits oneself, then providence moves too. All sorts of things occur that would never otherwise have occurred. A whole stream of events issues from the decision, raising in one's favor all manner of unforeseen incidents and meetings and material assistance, which no man could have dreamt would have come his way. So you just talked about these coincidences that's happened, over the last just couple of weeks. Ken knows you know all these other people, and these meetings and incidences happen for a reason. They are kind of Providence inspired, and therefore I'm honored to be here. If Providence wants me here, I'm here.
Bob, I couldn't agree with you more. As a fact, I don't know. Do you know Dr. Bernie Siegel?
Well, I know of him, of course, but I've never met him. No.
Okay, so Dr. Bernie's a good friend of mine. He's turning 90 this Friday.
Oh
so
gosh.
I've invited him to Clubhouse. He's been on my stage a few times already. I actually introduced him to Les Brown. Les Brown, that's Les Brown's hero, on stage one night. We had like 10,000 people there. This was about a year ago. So he's coming this Friday. We've got another big guest, but I brought him in just for like 20 minutes. We want to sing happy birthday to him. The point I was trying to make was Dr. Bernie Siegel always talks about no coincidences.
Yeah.
And even the way me and him found each other, it was like one day I just kind of freaked out. I'm like, what? How did this possibly happen? And he goes, Tony, there's no coincidences. I was like, so that stuck with me. Every time I hear that, I'm like, he's right. Like, here we go again.
Awesome. So the people who are watching this, whenever they're watching it, I want them to realize they're probably watching it because they have a dream. They've made a commitment to something, and therefore they need to be vectored towards the information that they'll use. They don't have to use all of the information they learn here today, but maybe it's just one idea, maybe just one quote, maybe just one aha they get as a result of this, moves them down the path towards where Providence wants to take them. So that's what you and I are doing today. We are helping people on their path.
Thank you, Bob. And we're going to get into your story in just a moment. I just want to say one last thing about this. I find you very interesting because I came from academia. I was a financial planner for 10 years. Then I became a professor for about 10 years. This whole space of self-help and speaking is new to me, really, in the past year and a half, 2 years. And like, you're one of the first guys that I found, of course, besides my mentor, Sharon Lecter, that really get into the details of money and finance. Like in your book, you do some it really interesting things. You got diagrams of diversification of portfolios, and you talk about, different types of investments. I thought that was really interesting because most of the self-help people, they'll talk about money relating to mindset,
Yeah,
money and wealth, but
yeah.
they go at it from a mindset standpoint. You actually went to the numbers. So I respect you for that, for actually entering into the financial, well, coming from a financial perspective, from a science perspective. So
Well, most of my books before 2003 are very system oriented. And as you say, there are 10 systems in this book, and very nitty gritty, detailed systems with charts and graphs and left brain stuff. The multiple streams of income is a left brain book, but you'll start to notice that I began to realize that how important mindset is, because if I can teach you the system, here's the system. You don't need to go to a seminar and spend thousands of dollars. There's the system right there. But what happens is most people don't have the ability, the mindset, the habit pattern, the drive, the motivation. They don't have the ability to actually use the system. And therefore, which is more important, the system knowledge or people knowledge or mindset knowledge? Of those three types of knowledge and skills you need to succeed, this is system knowledge. It's cheap. Buy a book. You can get a free one. It's cheap. People knowledge is really important, and it's the second most important knowledge. But mindset knowledge is vastly more important, and that means you have to be able to motivate yourself to use the systems that somebody teaches you. So two people sit in my classes, and one person, gets it immediately and uses the system and goes off and makes $1 million. Another person here's the same system, same knowledge, and they procrastinate because they don't have the courage, the ability to overcome their own inner blocks. So I spend a lot more time talking about mindset knowledge now, whereas for most of my career I didn't. And then I had a car accident in 2003, and it woke me as my wake up call, and I realized, life is short. So what should you do with your life, And so that's been 19 years ago. The lessons I learned about that during that experience were extremely profound. And not only mindset, but it's also connection with your higher power. And if I were to say the secret of wealth, two really. Number one is, if you want to be wealthy, you have to be a giver. When you commit, like I just did that quote with you earlier, when you go all in and commit, one of the easiest ways to go all in and commit is to give the first 10% of the money that you earn, the first 10%. Give it away to whatever church or cause or charity or philanthropy or person that you are inspired to give it to. Give, because by committing to do that, that definitely connects up with providence, because providence is a giver and wants everyone to win. And yet it's a tough life. And therefore, secret number one, give. And that cost me about $10 million to learn that lesson. And then the second one is, I'm bringing my spiritual values here because of that car accident. Before that time, I was very guarded about my spiritual values, the things that were really important to me. I would talk very generically about it. I wouldn't want to offend anybody that might not believe. I definitely believe in God. I believe in a higher power. And the question I would ask you is, does God know which stocks are going to go up tomorrow on the stock market? And the answer is, well, I asked this audience from audiences all over the world. I'll ask them in Russia, I'll ask them in China, Japan, Singapore. You're right in the middle of my speech. I've got a question I'd like to ask you. How many of you believe in a higher power? And 90% of the people raise their hands, no matter what country they're from. And I said, well, I'm not here to talk about my specific beliefs, but generically speaking, you believe in a higher power. So does higher power know which stocks are going to go up tomorrow? And about 2/3 of the hands say yes. And about 1/3 of the hands go, no, of course not. Nothing knows what's going to happen tomorrow. That's the future. And I said, well, what does omniscient mean? What does omniscient means? All knowing. That means past, present, future, all knowing.
Everything.
And they go, oh, well, maybe. So if that's true, then shouldn't I have higher power on my board of directors at least? And the best way to put higher power on your board of directors is just say, where do you want me to give? Inspire me. Where do you want me to give? And some people are inspired by women's charities or children's funds or Ukraine. I got a friend of mine who flew his jet and a whole bunch of people and $2 million worth of supplies to Ukraine this last week because he was inspired from what he's seeing on the news to go to Ukraine and pull people out of those danger zones. And that was his inspiration, and that's where he gives. And I was happy to give him a little bit of money myself so that could help him with his dream. So if you have that as a foundation to your wealth, if you lay it as, okay, whatever I earn, I'm going to give 10% away. You can give a lot more. Bill Gates invited 100 of his billionaire friends and then challenged them to give away half of their fortunes, half. And 117 of them signed the pledge to give away half. Wow. Zuckerberg gave away 99%. So one of the reasons they're so rich is because higher power knew they would be rich and that they would be givers. And then they did give. So when you look at all the billionaires, whether you like them or not, whether you think they're immoral or unethical or whatever your belief is, that one thing you can guarantee, that there are very few billionaires who are not massive givers. And so is that the foundation of multiple streams of income? I took a little side tangent there. That's what I would say. If you want to be rich, where do you want to give? And give there, starting right now, tomorrow. Give a little, give $100, 10, 1, give something tomorrow and watch what happens.
Bob, I'm really glad that we went there. I know we got to get into your story. We're definitely going to do that in just a moment, but this was very interesting side note because I've been thinking about this too. Of course, I'm very picky on my guests for the show, and because I got to spend a lot of time researching them and organizing and all this other stuff, and especially when we eventually get to Clubhouse, if you want to join us, this is serving as a baseline to serve you better. One thing I noticed in my research is that when I listened to your videos from the 80s and 90s, it was like a different Bob than the 2000 plus. I heard Bob the seller, and correct me if I'm wrong, and I don't mean to offend you in any way, but I heard Bob the seller, but from like 2000s plus, I guess around the time you were talking about, you kept bringing in spirituality into the discussion. I was like, wait, that wasn't from before. Okay, this is cool. Let's go with it. So as I kept listening more and more, I keep hearing more about the spirituality thing. So why do you think, and this is an important conversation for money, right? Like there's so many people, when I talk with Tim Story, he's a pastor on Tuesday. He's a pastor, right? For the celebrities. Why do you think that so many people that you consider yourself religious, right, Bob?
Absolutely.
Okay. So why do you think so many people that are religious have a problem with making money? They see money as an enemy. What's your thoughts on that?
I did too, myself, for many years. But I decided to get forgiveness rather than permission. And so I just said, let's go for it. I felt like that this was my calling in life. Like I had these desires, these passions, these skills, these talents, that all of that's not going to be used somehow to help the world be a better place. So when I was 36, I had my midlife crisis, and that was I felt guilty, like I'd been making so much money, and I said, okay, God, I'll give it all away. Okay, I'll go contemplate my navel somewhere. What should I do with the rest of my life? And I literally expected, like, okay, I'll stop making money. I'll stop teaching people how to make money. I'll stop investing in my money. And the answer was stunning to me. As actually, I didn't expect it. And the answer was, why do you think that these opportunities have come to you? I don't want you to do less of it. I want you to do more of it. And it was, like the total, complete mind shift for me. And so that's what I did. And that's why we had seminars that have taught millions of people around the world. And usually when I'm talking before the 2003 Bob, yeah, I would sprinkle in a little of my thoughts about spirituality because I was afraid to offend people. I didn't want to offend that handful of people in the audience, maybe 5%, who didn't believe in a higher power. 95% of them did. We all had different ways of describing higher power, different systems of belief, but I was afraid I would offend the atheists in the room. And after I had my car accident, I said, I don't care if the atheists are offended. That doesn't bother me at all. This is my truth. This is what I believe. Mm-hmm. So you hired me to be your mentor. So I'm going to tell you the whole enchilada. One of the reasons I'm where I'm at is because I believe what I believe. And
did you always believe that, Bob? Like, did you grow up religious?
Yeah. Always, but always afraid to offend people. Always afraid of what people would think of me. And this is a major fear. And it took me many, many years to get over it. You have a hard time explaining, what really is authentic for you because you're afraid you might offend somebody. You might tick somebody off. You might say, oh, that Robert Allen, and I was afraid to sell too. I would be in front of an audience and I have a program to sell. It's $500 or $5,000 or $50,000. And I would get to the point in my presentation, I would teach my heart out. And then I would get to the point where I say, okay, now some of you will need to share a little bit of money here as we move forward if you want me to mentor with you continuing. And I couldn't sell. I just was horrible at it. I was just like clam up because I was afraid of what people would think. And I know this is affecting some of your listeners right now. And eventually you get over it, but it took me like 30 years of my life to get over this. If I'd just gotten over it 29 years earlier, the wealth would have been massively more, and my losses, my mistakes would be substantially less. So this fear is a biggie. It's extremely expensive. It's just a thought. And so before 2003, I was definitely saddled with those fears. After 2003, it was like every breath I took was so valuable. I woke up in the hospital after this car accident, my family at the foot of my bed. I've been in an induced coma for many days. And when I finally came out of the coma, I see my wife, I see my children there. And I take a breath, and for the first time in my life, I recognized the breath. Just the breath was so valuable, was so precious. And I just said to myself under my breath, I said, thank you, 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 thank you. And even today, many years later, I find myself shopping in the store, and underneath my breath, I'm just saying, thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So it's a different Bob. Yeah, it's a different Bob. Still system oriented, but I know how to sell now. Now I can sell. And that was the book by Influence. Cialdini's book was given to me by one of the employees of Tony Robbins. He was our AV guy for both of us at the same time. And he gave me Influence by Cialdini. You've read that one, I'm sure. Have you, Doc?
Yeah, I've heard of it. I skimmed through it. I haven't read the whole thing.
Don't skim. You need to memorize those principles. They're fundamental to all persuasion. That book has made me $10 million.
Wow.
Because it overcame my fear of I thought I needed to be good at persuasion. No, you need to use principles that are powerful. And it doesn't matter how weak you are. If you use these principles, they work, period. And scarcity and authenticity and authority And giving. He doesn't call it giving, he calls it something else, but it boils down to giving. It's reciprocity. That's the word he uses. So, and anyway, I'm all over the map here.
No, that's good. We digress, but we're gonna regroup. Bob, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that. It was a great digression because it was an important one. And we're learning about your story through that. So Bob, let's step back to childhood though. Where were you originally from? And if you could tell us about like your first 10 years or so.
I was born in Raymond, Alberta, Canada, which is a little town just over the border from Montana. My mother was American, so my dad came to BYU and married her and took her back to Canada. She and I share a very important day. May 20th, 1948 is the day I came into this world, and it's the day she left it. And therefore I didn't get a chance to be raised by a beautiful, loving mother. My dad raised me and he did a fabulous job, but that kind of defines the beginning of my life. And then I started to, learn and grow and study and learn. And when I took my MBA, I had no clue I would do anything with business. I just thought an MBA would be a good idea. And then the recession forced me into do what I was born to do. I remember getting those 30 letters that I'd sent out, applications for jobs, General Foods, General Mills, General Motors, General Electric. And generally, every one of those 30 letters that I sent out came back, no, we don't want you. We don't think you belong in our company. And I was devastated by that because I remember gathering them all up, letter by letter, coming back in. And I laid them out on my bed and I said, well, this is horrible. I just spent, 6 years of my life getting higher education and now nobody wants me. But this is when I learned I was an entrepreneur. It was on that day when I was looking at those 30 letters. And I said to myself, wait a minute, who are these people? Who are these personnel directors that have signed their names to this letter that tells me that I'm not worthy to work in their company? And rather than being depressed and discouraged, which I was for maybe a week, I was devastated for a week. And then I got mad. And I looked at those letters and I said, one day I will earn more money than all 30 of these people combined. And that's when I knew I was an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurs, when you tell an entrepreneur they can't do it, what do? They come back to you and they go, watch me. They love a challenge. And I didn't realize at the time, my grandfather was an entrepreneur, but my father was an employee, raised in the Depression. He worked as a company employee for his entire life. He never stepped out to have a side hustle and anything. But my grandfather, major entrepreneur, those are the genes I got. And so I said, I'm going to take this $1,000 for these 30 people. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do with this $1,000. And I bought a property in the first few weeks after graduating from university. And then I bought 2 and 3 and 4 and 5, 10, 20 properties, all using the systems that I was designing called Nothing Down, how to buy real estate with little or no money down. How do you do that? Well, I learned techniques from every investor I could find. How do you buy property with little? How do you find the deals? How do you fund them? What do you do when you get them? How do you farm them? How do you find, fund, and farm? And you boil everything down in real estate, and that's it. Those are the 3 skills you need to have. And I learned those skills from my own experience, learning how to make it work. And as they say, the rest is history. Now, thousands of people, thousands, are millionaires, multimillionaires. I've got some folks that are on their way to billions from this career of mine that started 42 years ago. So that's why we're on the phone today, or on the Zoom.
Bob, there's a lot you just gave me here. We crossed multiple decades. So I want to chew this up a little bit at a time because you've got a lot of stuff, powerful stuff to share. I just want to go back. So your mom had died the same day that you were born, the exact day.
Yeah.
Wow. First of all, I'm sorry to hear about your loss, but that must have been that was life-changing, I can imagine, for you. How was it like growing up with just your dad, and I imagine just in Canada the whole time, right? For most of your youth.
I had the next door to us was my cousins, my uncle's daughter, and they had 6 children, and they were great kids. And my dad, of course, he would go to work, and there was a babysitter, maid is not the right word, housekeeper. Her name was Sally. So she became my surrogate mother. But I would go eat at my cousin's house right next door. And so a good family upbringing, frankly. Uh, I had, I was taken care of, let's put it that way. And I'll see my mom again. I know I will. She still lives. She's there. I hope she's proud of what I've accomplished, but I don't know. I'm looking forward to giving her a big hug and saying, Mom, I missed you so much. But Dad did the best he could, and he did. He was a great man.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, were you an entrepreneur growing up? Were you like were you a paper boy, and you do all those crazy jobs kids like myself had? I worked at McDonald's. I mean, did you have any of those kind of jobs at all?
I worked in the grocery store that my grandfather started. It's called the Mercantile in Raymond, Alberta.
My grandfather had a grocery store too. Interesting.
Yeah, so I would go work there, but I was a lousy employee, and I would deliver groceries and things like that, and stock shelves. But not, that's an employee. That's not, starting little side jobs. Many entrepreneurs are like that. They're just naturally, they're just out selling something. Mm-hmm. Always, trying to figure out what something's like Warren Buffett, look at his little stories of him selling bottles of empty bottles of Coke until eventually he owns a big chunk of it, of Coca-Cola. But no, that wasn't mine. Nope. And therefore, I'm really not what you would call a true entrepreneur. What I really am is a teacher. And a true entrepreneur, they are just, every penny is important. Every dollar is watching the money grow. I had a lot of that, but not in the nitty-gritty detail that some entrepreneurs are. But what I do is teach. That's my skill. But I still make good money, great money and great investing, but teaching is what I love to do. And if I got to the point where I thought, do I really like this real estate stuff? The truth is, no, I didn't. I didn't like, as soon as I bought it, it's like catching a fish. Well, what do I do with this fish? Mm-hmm. I got to clean it, and gut it, and, and take it home, and it starts to smell. And, I just didn't like. So I bought lots of real estate to make my million. But then I had this, like, what do I really want to do? I want to teach. That's what I love to do. That's my skill. That's my talent. So that's what I do. And I speak all around the world. Until COVID, I was speaking, all around the world. And when one door closes, as they say, Providence opens another one. And boy, did that happen. I was not doing any social media, zero. And I bumped into one of my employees from 20 years earlier, who used my knowledge to go out and make his million. He's one of my employees. He was a salesman on the floor selling my stuff. And he said, no, I'm going to do this, man. I'm going to do this. And created his fortune, created his millions. And then he started doing social media. And I saw him speak at an event. His name is Chris Crone. You should probably get him on your show. He's great.
Oh, Chris Crone? Yeah, I watched the interview. That was really good.
He's awesome. So I'm at a speech where he's there, and I'm invited to speak as well. He's on the stage. I don't even know who he is, and he just crushed it. He just was so full of energy and life, and it was just amazing. And he said, every week I post 700 pieces on my social media, 700 pieces of social media output. And I thought, what? How does anybody do that? And he goes, well, I record 4 or 5 hours worth of video every week. And my team in the Philippines and here in America,
they slice it.
the little pieces, and they post it on the 7 major social media sites, TikTok and
Instagram, all that stuff.
LinkedIn and Instagram and everything else. And I said, I would like to do that. I'd like you to do that for me. And he said, well, let's form a partnership. And yeah, your name is very famous, and you've been traveling around the world internationally speaking to these entrepreneurs, because in 2008, we know what happened. In 2008, the world went upside down when it came to real estate, and nobody wanted to buy investment real estate. So my seminar business died, but when one door closes, another opens. And so I said, well, I'll just go teach the world, because there are entrepreneurs everywhere. And my books have been published in Chinese and Russian and about 20 different languages. So that's what I did. And for the next 10 years, I wasn't here in America. I didn't teach seminars. I didn't do any Zoom things. I went to Japan and maybe China, maybe 20 times, and all over China. And it was, wow, what a country. And then when COVID happened, we were flying back from Japan on the 9th of March, 2020, and the world shut down. And my business, my international speaking business, went to zero. I had to kind of rewind it up again to do some Zooming, and I can Zoom instead of flying, and that is nice, but that door closed. And then boom, talk about commitment and how Providence moves to. I am invited to come to this event in Key West, Florida. I don't want to go. It's just 2021, and we're just coming out of COVID. And no, not really. And thank you for the invitation. No, I'm not going to come. They said, well, we'll pay your way, and we'll fly your wife too, and we'll pay your hotel, and we'll pay your expenses. And I normally have my speaking fee is usually 10, 15, 20 grand. And I thought, I haven't spoken anywhere. Okay. And just all these little things came together. So there's Chris, and I get to meet him. And so guess what my social media views were starting last year, 1 year ago. My social media views last week were 3.6 million views last week, where a year ago it was 0. Now, what does that do to my message? Well, my message, as I just shared with you, I've talked about my foundational beliefs. I've talked about a little bit about real estate, multiple streams of income. This is my song. This is what I do. I sing these words. These are my lyrics. So having you invite me on your podcast, Dr. Finance, is my honor to be able to speak through you and your people. They can go to robertallen.com and find a little bit more about me, but frankly, these words I'm speaking, I was destined to speak. This is the song I sing, and I'll sing it probably till my last breath, because we finally discover, and it takes a while to discover what your purpose is. Why are you breathing on this planet and not some other planet? Why this planet? Why are you awake? What are the 4 fundamental aspects that you eventually discover about yourself? Number 1, you discover, what am I good at? What's my talent? And everybody has a talent or two that's unique. And what am I good at? The second question is, what do I like to do? What do I love to do? What's my passion? What would I do even if they didn't pay me? You're not paying me. I do this because this is what I do, and I'm passionate about it. Number 3 is, what's important to me? What are my values? And I just shared with you my values. It starts with a foundation of a belief in a higher power. That's really, really important to me. And how do you know it's important? How do you know what your values are? Because they are your priority. A priority, the word means to be prior to. So a priority is something you do first. You do it first. Why do you do it first? Because you like to do it. Why do you procrastinate other things? Because you don't like to do those things. Because you're not good at those things. But you do these these that are important to you. These are your priorities. So I've shared with you right off the bat, the first time we got into it, I laid down the foundation of my priorities for you. And whether you liked them or not, whether you believed it or not, whether you thought I was crazy or not, I don't care. This is my priority. And therefore, if I offend some people, be offended. Go away. Go find somebody else. Frankly, that's what I would say. But before 2003, I'd never say that. I'd say, oh, please, I don't want to offend you. It's okay. I'm so sorry. No, no longer. No, I tell what I believe is true, because we have experiences in life that teach us what the truth is for us, what our truth is. And eventually you come away with, this is my destiny. This is what I was born to do. That's the fourth thing. What was I born to do? What am I good at? What's important to me? What do I love to do? What's my destiny? So this is why I'm doing what I'm doing. Why you invited me to be here? I'm here.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, so Chris Crone, he was your employee, and then
Yes.
he figured out, I guess, while he was doing it, he was trying to figure out other things and learned how to create big events and become a
Yes.
great social media giant, right?
Yes. Yes. He's amazing.
I saw his subscribers. Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of followers on
Yeah,
a few
he does.
platforms, so he must be doing something right.
And he's the guy who flew his plane to Ukraine this last week.
Oh, that
And
was his plane?
his plane, and that was his, filled the whole plane up,
Wow.
and flew a bunch of people to Ukraine, and they went into the danger zone. And they pulled some very unfortunate people out of the danger zone. And like within a few days after they got them out, the Russians have started the bombing again, and that place was probably not a safe place to be anymore. So anyway, he's a giver. I'm a giver. You're a giver. That's what we do.
Yeah, and don't feel bad about the social media thing. Like it wasn't until probably about, I don't know, a year and a half ago, all the followers that I have, I started to amass it because, just real quick, this is definitely about you, but I want to tie it in here. I was a university professor for 10 years, wrote 3 books, the ones you see on my wall here, and I barely got one review on Amazon. Okay, so you want to talk about a slap in the face, and then like
Yeah.
I didn't get any respect from. I felt this way. I didn't feel like I was getting enough respect from my universities. Taught at 6 of them, so I left a few years back, and then COVID hit, and I'm like, you know what? I got to master marketing. I was just saying that David Meltzer was interviewing me this week, and I was saying to him, like, it's so important to learn
Yeah,
marketing.
it
So
is.
I wanted to become a master of it. That's how I figured out all this stuff for the same reason that you were doing. You're like, look, I got it to impact the world. You got to do this. So if I can help you in any way, I've learned a lot too. I'd be happy to help. I know Chris is doing some amazing stuff with you, but I'd be happy to support both of you as
Uh,
well. Just leaving it out there.
Thank you.
Bob, also your last point about like changing in big moments, right? So if I interviewed you, let's say, let's go back a few months before COVID, and I
Yeah.
tried to do a podcast interview with you, I would have a lot less probability of getting this event fulfilled because you were probably flying all over the world, like you said, right?
Yeah, but I refuse very few podcast interviews. I'll sometimes procrastinate them and put them into it next year, but hey, if a person's got an audience, and your audience is massive, my friend, massive, and you stumble into it not realizing what would happen, and guess what happened? Things exploded for you. So yeah, I want to be on a stage like that with you. But very rarely do I turn them down. I can always squeeze in some time. Tomorrow I leave to go to Europe. I'm
Wow.
gone for 17 days. And so this is a very, very, very busy day, extremely busy day. But this is the time that I committed to you. And why? Because this is what I do.
I appreciate that, Bob. I appreciate that. And Bob, I learned, so Jeffrey Gitmer is a Hall of Fame speaker. He was on a few
Oh yeah,
weeks
he's
ago.
great. Love
You know
Jeff.
Jeffrey? Big
Wild
Philly
man.
fan too. Okay, I'm sorry.
He's a wild man.
Yeah. Well, he told a story I'll never forget. He's talked about Jim Rohn one day, and he watched Jim Rohn speak to an audience of 19 people, and he pulled them aside when he left the room, and said, Jim, what are you doing, man? There's only 19 people there. And he goes, Jeffrey, no, it was like 50 people in here. I'm sorry. It was 50 people. He goes, Jeffrey, one day I spoke to an audience of 19 people. And guess who was in that room? Tony Robbins. Right? So listen to this. So Bob, real quick. So Tuesday, I was speaking on Dave Meltzer's platform. I only got like 6 followers. He was interviewing me on Instagram. He's got like 500,000 followers. And I walk away. I'm like, man, I only got 6 followers. And one of the followers was a major like social media guru who's like interviewing all these rap stars with millions of followers, tens of millions, right? 6 people, and one of them was him. And I thought about that story, and I'm like, I'm never going to make that mistake again. I was having that mentality for just a moment, but I'm not going to think like that. Never again.
That's the reason I do my podcast. Never can tell what'll happen. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, I want to just pop back to your story, finish it up, some of the earlier moments again, and then we'll get to the questions. One of the things I want to talk about is your real estate. So I have a real estate background. You had to be connecting when you were getting $1,000 to buy these no money down deals. And I know all about it, by the way, because I'm a product of that. My father's, he's done that plenty of times. Telling me some creative stories yesterday. How were you finding like we're going to talk about mentors in a little bit, but were you like, you had $1,000, but did you have the knowledge of how to do this? You had to get some kind of insight from somebody to really figure out that first deal before you made 2 and 3 and 4 deals.
In my church group, there was we call it a bishopric, made up of a lay person who's a bishop and then a couple of counselors. And they don't get paid. They're ordinary business people or teachers or whatever. And on Sunday, they come and serve. And one of the counselors was a man by the name of Paul Jukes. And he was in my little church group. And so I went to him, and he's a multi-millionaire and owns property all over California. And I said, Paul, I need a mentor. And this is what most people do, and this is the wrong way to go about it. He taught me the way I should have gone about it, and the way I should have been interested in his projects, not mine. Please help me. Not wrong way to do it. Paul said, well, I've got a project that I'm working on. You help me with my project, I'll help you with yours. And I said, great, where is it? And he says, well, it's about 60 miles south of Provo, Utah, and I've got this land that I've developed into a recreational lots and rivers and streams and fruit trees and stuff, and I'm having a hard time selling it. And you help me sell it, and I'll help you whatever you want. In other words, that's how you get to your mentor. What are your 3 biggest projects? How can I help you? I don't expect anything in return. How can I help you? I just want to be proximity is the secret. Proximity. Yeah. So he was my mentor. And I showed him my first deal. My first property I found from a highly motivated seller, and she had $6,000 in equity, and the property was direct one block away from the university, perfect location. And I said, should I buy this property? She'll take $1,000 as a down payment, but then I have to give these balloon payments. In 2 months, I got to give another 1,000, and in another 4 months, I got to give 1,500. And this is, I don't have I'm not even making any money with you, Paul. I don't have a job. Should I do this? And his advice to me, I'll never forget. We're driving in the car on the way to his project, and he looks over at me and he goes, Bob, I'd rather see a crooked furrow than a field unplowed. And I'm still not sure really what that means. I think he meant to say, go for it, buddy. Make a mistake. I don't care. But don't leave your field unplowed. Dig a furrow, get started. And so I did it. And then the guy who owned the property next door had gone to Mexico for a vacation and came back and found out the property he had wanted to buy next door to his had been sold to this crazy kid called Robert Allen. And he comes over to me after I cleaned out the garage and painted a few things and done a little work. He says, I need your house. I want your house. I want it. It was a duplex, actually. I want it. how much, you know? And so I turned my $1,000 into $6,000. It didn't seem like much, but remember, this was 45 years ago. So $6,000 was a lot of money, because the house itself was like 25 grand. Today it's 225 grand, 325 grand. But so I took that money and then I parlayed it. That's what you do. You take your investments and you parlay them. And that's how I got started. You know, my mentor, Paul. So yeah, you need a mentor, whether you're reading your mentor's books or you're hiring them as your coach for $25,000 or $50,000. You know, you can get a book for $5. You know, so get what you can afford, and got to have a mentor. Yeah, got to have one.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Excellent response. We're going to talk about mentorship in a little bit, but one last question, then we'll get into the other questions as a part of your story. I find an interesting similarity here between you and I. Like, I have a real estate background. I grew up in a real estate family, and even though I was, you know, a professor for 10 years, what do you make? Six figures at best, early, you know, low six figures at best, right? It's not much, and especially if you're teaching at 6 universities, you're adjunct. There's not a lot there. So I made money from real estate from finding deals like you. I know what you say works because that's how my life worked, right? I found different deals and I got in and I wound up selling them for anywhere from 5 to 20x over the course of, you know, 15, 20 year span. But that paid the background. I never really became a rich person because it wasn't my priority. Anyway, I'm getting off the tangent here. The point I'm trying to make was that this, even though it funded my lifestyle, I don't consider myself an entrepreneur because that was really like an investment. And you mentioned entrepreneurship, how you're not an entrepreneur earlier. I think it's worth the time for just a moment to just focus on that because we fit this odd box. I think you're actually an entrepreneur. I think we're both entrepreneurs now. But before, right? Like when you were making money, you may have been in the same category as me. Like we're entrepreneurs. We're like investors. Plus we're doing this other stuff, right? So can you speak to that? Because I still don't consider myself a full entrepreneur until COVID, I became a full entrepreneur. I burnt my boat, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, burned it, and I wasn't looking back. Now I'm going forever in this path, right? We're both educators too. But where does the entrepreneurship fall into our specific circumstances?
Babson College in Northeast is the entrepreneurial college. It's focused on entrepreneurship, and when you do some research there, you find out that about 1 in 7 people in the United States are entrepreneurs, and full entrepreneurs, true entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
You know, I think you're right, Tony. You and I
we're like a hybrid.
We're a hybrid. We're on the cusp. You know, we're not employees. We despise to be.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We hate that. So we're not an employee. Yeah. We're definitely not that. Investors and quasi entrepreneurs, yeah, we're probably more like that. All I think it really takes, it doesn't matter what you categorize yourself as. It's your dreams. That's the most important part. What do you want? Now, I wanted to be a millionaire. Why? Where the heck did that come from? You know, just out of the blue, I want to be a millionaire. So I did. I figured it out. I found real estate was my vehicle. I counted the equities as it increased over the properties that I bought until I cracked that $1 million number. And then I decided I wanted to teach what I had learned, and more people will be entrepreneurs. We attract both. We attract people like us, but some of us will attract people like us, which are teachers. We are influencers. This is just what we like to do. But some people are not like us, Tony. They don't like to teach. They are not good at it. It's not important to them. It's not their purpose in life. So they are going out there and they're making money hands over fists, you know, it just much more than I would. Being a billionaire is not important to me at all. You know, making serious money, well, that's fun. But whatever our listeners, viewers are today, what is your dream? I have a book called The 4 Maps of Happy, Successful People. And this is my latest one. And it's a simple little one. It's about the 4 skills you need, the 4 habits that you need if you want to really be successful. You have to have what I call clarity. And your clarity is to know exactly what you want. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly how I was going to get it. Real estate was the vehicle. So what do you want? When do you want it? Where do you want it? How much of it do you want? Who's going to help you get it? Why do you want that? And finally, how are you going to do it? Clarity is taking the time to really discover what you really, really, really want. And many people are not interested in money. It just it's just not interested, zero. But entrepreneurs or quasi-entrepreneurs like you and me, we are interested in money. We're investors. We like to see money grow. We just like it. And we get up in the morning and we think about it all day long, and we like to teach other people how to do the same thing. So that's what clarity is about. And then the second skill is what I call anticipation. The first one is all about dreams. The second one, anticipation, is all about nightmares. What could go wrong? And if it does go wrong, which it will, what am I going to do? What's my plan B? What could derail me? I want to anticipate that so that when it does happen, I'm ready and I'm going to go, I knew this was going to happen. This is my plan B. This is my plan C. I got it. That's anticipation, and that takes some time. The third skill is called ritual. That means, what do people do to prepare themselves to do the things that they know they need to do during the day? As my mentor, Stephen Covey, would say, you have to have your daily private victory so that you can go out in the world and have your daily public victory. I call that a ritual, and that's what I do this morning in my chair right over here. I got up, and because of the accident that happened to me in 2003, since that time, every morning is exactly the same. I read the words of the prophets. I read scripture. Scripture is the big, 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 big picture, before and after this life. And therefore, I want to be, when I woke up in the hospital, I asked myself a question. If I had died last night and I had met my Heavenly Father, would I have been able to say to him that I had put him first in my life? And the answer to that question was no. He was maybe a Sunday thing, maybe not even that. I wasn't a bad person. I'm not saying anything about that, my character. I'm just saying I didn't put him first. And I made the decision because I got awakened, because the car accident almost killed me. It's not virtuous on my part to do this. It's because it almost killed me to learn it. And that is every day. I read scriptures, and every day I pray. And that's how I start my day. That's my ritual. And then I talk about the three fundamental things you got to do if you want to work on your life. This is ritual stuff. This is the 3 B's. This is your being. You have to exercise every day. So your body and your brain, the ritual time is to exercise these 3 things every day. So I exercised this morning, and I've done that for almost 20 years in a row. And I will do that tomorrow morning. And I will do that the morning after that. I got to exercise my body, and I don't do this as much as I should, but I got to exercise my brain. I exercise my brain a lot. That's books. I read a book this morning. I read. I exercise my mind. I read things that prepare me for my daily public victory. And so this ritual usually takes me between an hour and 2 hours. Now you put me in here at 9 o'clock in the morning, which is a time when you could do it. And the only time I could do it today, but I don't like to do morning things. You know why? Because it gets in the way of my ritual. Ticks me off, frankly, unless I have to do it. And I had to do it today, but I missed my exercise today. So you're the blame for that, Tony.
Sorry, Bob.
But ritual is just doing these three things. And then you go, and the final map, I call it, is the task map. And this is a right brain organizational book. This is the task map. That's what it looks like. You draw that every day. And it basically says, where do you want to be 5 years from now? Those are your ideals. Where will you be a year from now? And on your way to your ideals, that's what I call dones. And I don't set goals, I set dones. When I say I'll do something, it's done. I don't hope I will wish to become a millionaire one day. If I say I'm going to do it, it gets done. And therefore I break it down into yearly dones. And then finally there are daily musts. There are things I must do today in order to get to my dones, so my dones can turn into my ideals. So this book doesn't mention money at all. There's no real estate. There's no stock market in there. There's no business. It's only mindset. And I believe if everybody read that book first and get them habit patterns first, that they couldn't fail. When you're clear on your goal, it's, you have a hard time failing, because you really get what you want. You get what you declare. You get what you write down. If you write it down every single day, as my friend Brian Tracy does, every day he writes down his goals, every day. And I don't know why we got off of that, but
Hey, you're having fun when I let you roll with it. Bob, thank you so much. Bob, where are you located now?
I live in Highland, Utah.
Okay, Utah.
We lived in California for 30 years, and my wife was from California, so that was for the first 30 years of our marriage. We lived in Utah. First 4 or 5 years we lived in Utah. Then we went to California. Mm-hmm. And interesting story there. We went to California because we built this massive mansion in the Sundance Ski Resort. Magnificent, beautiful mansion with all the money I was making from my book royalties. And then an avalanche destroyed it. Oh. Literally, an avalanche destroyed it. And it was used as collateral for some business loans, $1.7 million. And the insurance wouldn't pay. Oh, man. So now I owe $1.7 million. And the bank takes everything I own and drives me over a period of years into bankruptcy. And it was horrible, terrible, rotten. I will admit that, of course. Wish it hadn't happened, but boy, am I glad it happened.
When was that? Not in the 90s?
1986.
Oh, 86.
So this has been, many years ago as the bankruptcy, but it drove me to my knees, and it taught me lessons I couldn't learn in any other way. And it taught me how to be a giver. Frankly, at the bottom, when there was no money left, the bank took it all, and we had to start again from zero, below zero, a couple million in the hole. And I went to my spiritual advisor and I said, I know we're supposed to pay tithing and things like that, but I don't have any money. I'm so deep in the hole, I'll never get out. And he said, you earn a little. Yeah, you do. Yeah, you got 10% of $10. That's $1. Give it. And it took enormous faith for me to do that, because I was so far in the hole I would never get out. And it seemed like there was a little more money the next week. And the problems were a little bit less. And I won't say it was not miraculous. No, don't get me wrong on that. It took a year or two. But that habit I formed because of the bankruptcy, it forced me to give. It forced me to. And then I started to give, and I began to realize, wow, these opportunities are coming at me like crazy. Wow, now what I give every week is more than I used to earn in a week. Now it's 10 times more than what I used to earn in a week, and just the 10%. And so I have as they say, a testimony of giving that started not because I was rich, but because I was absolutely bankrupt. And the reason I came out of it is because of giving. So you want to know the real reason why I'm a giver? Because it has worked for me big time.
Bob, so in 1986, this event occurred and you went bankrupt over a period of years. You're making a lot of money in the 90s.
Yeah.
And you had said earlier, it wasn't really until 2003 that you really started to change spiritually, because you were looking at the world still, you still were a good person, but you still weren't putting the right priorities, right?
Right.
Would you say that the 86 event started getting you on the right track, but it was the 2003 event that really put you at right where you were supposed to be, spiritually wise?
There are these dips in a person's life. And every time you go through this dip, you have to learn lessons. And so the bankruptcy and the avalanche, those were very powerful lessons. Leading up to 2003, which was the car accident, which was the wake-up call. Yeah. There were little hints of waking up, but wake-up call happened in 2003. Yeah. March the 15th, 2003.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Bob, I know we're on a time constraint today, so I want to get into the questions. So I got about, less than 20 questions here for you. And they're easy stuff. Like the first one is about your books. So if we can just can you give a highlight of your books for maybe a minute or so?
Nothing Down is the first one. Creating Wealth was the second. The third one was The Challenge. And The Challenge is a book that's about me going to an unemployment line. Let me select someone who's broke, out of work, and discouraged. In 2 days' time, I'll teach them the secrets of wealth. In 90 days, I'll be back on their feet with 5,000 cash in the bank. Never to set foot in an unemployment line again. This one was the hardest book. It took me 2 years to write this one, and this sold the least of my books. Now I've been giving it away for the last 30 years. And anybody who wants a copy of it, go to my website and get it. But it's a digital book. It's me teaching people who have nothing how to get started. Then that was followed by Multiple Streams of Income, Multiple Streams of Internet Income. Then that was followed by The 1 Minute Millionaire with
Mark Victor Hansen. Yeah, I heard.
Hansen. Yeah,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, this is probably my favorite book because it's 2 books in one. The left-hand side is the nonfiction side. This side is the fiction side. This side is the story of a woman who needs to make $1 million. And this is the story of you if you need to make $1 million. Nonfiction, fiction, 2 books in one. Huge bestseller, massive bestseller. Then that was followed by the second book with Mark Victor Hansen, which was Cracking the Millionaire Code. And this is a powerful book. How do you crack the code? And there are 4 codes you need to crack. And then that's followed up by Cash in a Flash, which is this one. And this is how do you use a lot of mindset stuff in this one. But the 3 fundamental ways that you got to make money. And so, and then the 4 maps of happy, successful people. That one's one I would start with. Go to Amazon, get the Kindle version of it. That's where I would start if I were you. And then Multiple Streams of Income and The 1 Minute Millionaire, the 2 books I would recommend.
How many books total, Bob?
I'm author or co-author of 17 books.
Wow.
Yeah. And I got 3 more have to be done by my birthday next year. You notice I use the word done. I didn't say the word goal. By next year on my birthday, there will be 3 new books done. Why will they be done? Because I just told you that they will be done.
Yeah, we're going to hold you to it. But why 3 though? That's the question I have. Why 3 at one time?
Because I haven't written one book for the last 5 years. And so I usually take my time getting these books out. In my 45-year career, I only have, 10 major books, a lot of little minor ones, but so I usually about every 5 years I write a book. I decided, well, I'm 74. It's time to just get it done, get it out, get the words down, make your message happen. And so I will.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. And #1 New York Times bestseller. You know how hard it is to do, folks. And you were twice. You were
Twice.
#1 New York. Wow, impressive.
We've hit the list 5 times, but #1 twice. Yeah.
Thank you, Bob. All right, next question. I just want to dive in real quick on your first book a little bit more. How to buy real estate with no money down. If you can talk about that just for a minute or so. I heard one of your strategies. Actually, I think it was you were telling the Chris Crone. It was really interesting, and I never heard this before. Fourth mortgage. You had 4 mortgages. I'm like, what? How did? And not even the, excuse me, not even the 4 mortgages. The way you designed that was so cool. Like the second mortgage goes to someone, you're going to sell that one. Then you're going to give the third mortgage to your contractor. I'll keep a little of my 4th mortgage myself. That was just really interesting.
Well, the last 5, 6 years, the money has been too plentiful, and it's easy and it's cheap. And therefore, creative financing is not as prevalent as it is during the dips. Well, we're in a seller's market, so the sellers just wanted cash. But now we're moving into a buyer's market, and the interest rates go up. That means there are more highly motivated sellers. You need creative financing. Creative financing is solving a seller's problems without the use of your cash. So of all the properties in your city today, how many of them can be bought using nothing down technique? And the answer is every property that's available for sale today is a nothing down deal. Because if you're using OPM or OPR, other people's money, other people's resources, then if it's not your resources, it's nothing down to you. And therefore, most people misunderstand the nothing down concept. They think that means the seller takes absolutely nothing and walks away, and you make the mortgage payments with no down payment. Well, yes, that does happen. Yes, it does. It's rare, but it does happen. But the property you reference is me going to San Francisco to live up to a challenge that I made. Send me to any city, take away my wallet, give me $100 bill, and in 72 hours, I'll buy an excellent piece of real estate using none of my own money. And the LA Times picked up on the ad that I was running in the LA Times, full page ad that bragged that I could do that. And they called me on the phone and says, we don't think you can do that. Hold on one second. I tell you what, can we take a quick?
Yes, absolutely. We'll pause just one second.
Finishing up on.
Okay, we're back.
I find a property in San Francisco. The LA Times reporter flies with me to San Francisco to challenge me that I can buy a property with nothing down. So the property I find it has an existing mortgage of $125,000, and its value is 170, 180, and he says he'll sell it to me for 158. Which means there's $33,000 in equity. And he says he'll take nothing down. I said, well, good, $1. Great. Now, he's arranged for me to assume this because he had talked to a bank and said the first buyer after me, I want you to give them the permission to assume it, right? So now he says, now this is my $33,000. You got to pay me. And I say, how? Am I going to write a $33,000 second mortgage with monthly payments, 10% interest? He said, no, you're going to give me a $21,000 second, a $6,000 third, a $6,000 fourth. I'd never even heard of a fourth mortgage before. I said, why do you want to do it that way? That's crazy. He says, well, I'm going to sell that note, 10% interest, $21,000. I'm going to sell it to my friend as a discount for $15,000. They're going to buy that note at a discount. They give me 15 grand in cash, and then they get the 10% interest that comes from the note. And 10% is $2,100 in a year, and that's 14% on your money. That's pretty good. But there's a 3-year balloon. In 3 years, the 21,000 has to be all paid. So he makes $6,000 in 3 years, divided by his investment, equals 40% total. So when you add those two together, that's a pretty darn good investment for an investor. He sells the note and gets 15,000 in cash. I give him the note, which is zero money. He converts that into cash. So for him, he gets cash. And then he gives the $6,000 note to his builder as an incentive, the builder who helped him fix it up. And then he keeps the $6,000 note for himself that eventually he gets paid off. So this was a nothing down deal. And I learned that deal in the middle of my challenge in San Francisco, how to use notes as down payments and how those notes turn into cash. So the seller walks away with the cash and you get in with nothing. So there are 50 nothing down techniques. And this is just one of the 50 nothing down techniques. That's that story.
Thank you, Bob. That's incredible. Appreciate that. What was the name of that reporter? I mean, not the reporter, but the media company that you had the challenge with? Was that New York Times?
Los Angeles Times.
Los Angeles Times.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was an interesting story. I heard that whole thing. He slept in the second bunk bed too. I was
Yeah.
for 72 hours and watching you like a hawk.
Yeah. It was one of those defining moments in a career.
Next question, Bob. Thank you so much. Doing great. What are the best multiple streams of income? Like if one of your books was multiple streams of income.
Yeah.
What are the best like multiple streams of income? Investing, real estate, maybe 30 seconds if you can answer that. Thank you.
The one that you love. So you read them all and you figure out which one really kind of meshes with you. Oh, I talk about doing some options on the stock market, and there's a system for doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Some people are numbers people. They like numbers. That's a skill. That's their passion. I'm not a numbers person. I watching little tiny numbers go up and down, that doesn't buzz me. But information marketing, I think everybody should be an information marketer. Everybody. That means if you have a business that works, then you've learned the skill of how to have a business that works. Well, how many millions of entrepreneurs out there need somebody to coach them on how to get their business off the ground? So everybody has a book in them. And even as I'll say it maybe a different way, every business must be an information business, in addition to being a product business or a service business. You need to have information because everybody needs to learn about your product. So you give away information for free. You give away a book for free. I give away this book right here. I must have given away 50,000 copies of this book, free, with I paid the shipping, so that people would learn. And then of course I have their contact information now, their address, their database. It all goes on my database. And yes, they'll be receiving some calls from my team, inviting them to come to other seminars that I have. And some people don't come and some people do. And the ones that do come, that 10% who do come, well, in my lifetime, I've generated through partners, not all personally to me, but over $1 billion of information with my name on it. It's been marketed around the world. So yeah, I like information marketing.
Wow. That's incredible. Thank you, Bob. I love that. All right. So Bob, next question. Are we born wise? Now I want to preface that question. You had a great, I heard you had a great thought when you shared this comment to someone on an interview. You look at a baby's eyes and you see that they got wisdom in them from probably another life or something.
Yeah.
Any thoughts on that? Maybe 30 seconds.
Did we come from another life? That's a good question. Or is there life before this life? And yes, I do believe that. So we bring with us lots of wisdom from long time. We've been preparing to come here, and we show up here and everything is forgotten. We don't remember it, but our soul remembers it. Our soul resonates with that. That's why when you hear something that's true, You resonate with it. You go, this sounds familiar to me. And then if you don't have it, you go, I feel like, something's missing in my life, at least because your soul remembers that. So yeah, we are eternal beings. I do believe that. And
Thank you, Bob. Great response. Bob, next question. Are rich people wealthier than the poor?
well, there's wealth with a small w, and wealth with a capital W.
Mhm.
So wealth with a small w is material stuff. Wealth with a capital W is internal stuff. So when they sent me to San Francisco and they took away my wallet, they took away my small W wealth, my cash flow, my collateral, my credit. I had none of that, but they left me with my real wealth, my capital W wealth, my courage and my commitment and my clarity and my chutzpah and all that stuff that's inside. If you have that stuff inside, it doesn't matter what you have on the outside. You can always turn your real wealth into material wealth. And therefore, it all starts that way. So if you have no money, no credit, no cash, no collateral right now, you and listening to this, relax. It's okay. Almost all the millionaires you think of are started with nothing too. That was almost like a badge of honor. I started with nothing. That was my badge of honor. So yeah, you can make it happen from right where you are to create the wealth you want. Yes.
Thank you. Brilliant response. Thank you, Bob. Next question. What are your favorite types of students? Now, I want to just preface this. So, I mentioned earlier Tim Story, this guy's major influencer. He's got Oprah's ear and everybody else. Mentor to so many celebrities. He was here on Tuesday. He read your book and changed his life. I can't tell you how many people in Clubhouse have said your book changed their life. What are your favorite type of students?
Doers. They do it because they want it and they realize they'll never know enough, but they're willing to take action, knowing that they don't know enough. And that's called faith. And so a doer is a person who just starting and they have to step out in the cold. They have to step outside their comfort zone. And if you're in your comfort zone and that's where you stay, I don't respect you. It's the most dangerous place. You don't go outside your comfort zone because you're afraid that something bad will happen to you. Therefore, you stay inside your comfort zone, which is where all the bad stuff happens. In order for you to create wealth, you have to go outside your comfort zone. So the people who go outside their comfort zone, I respect, I admire. Even if they lose, I respect it. They cross the line. And they have to keep crossing it because it never goes away, this line. It never goes away. You're always stretching yourself to a new learning. Yeah, but if you shrink, when you shrink yourself inside your comfort zone, what happens is the comfort zone gets smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller because you take less and less risk and therefore you have nothing left.
Thank you, Bob. Brilliant response. Next question, 20, 30 seconds. How important is it to be ethical in business?
If you're in a partnership with higher power, you have to be ethical. Just duh. If you can steal it for a while, but eventually you get found out. And then the opportunities don't flow to a person that's a taker that's a liar. The people that doesn't flow to them. Eventually, if you're ethical and honest and tell your word and keep your word, no, we're all perfect. We all make mistakes, but generally speaking, be honest. And the world works better that way.
That's a brilliant response, Bob. That's where I was hoping you would go, because it's true. Like the long-term wealth, this disappears. You might get it for the short term. Maybe you get a year out of it, or even a few years if you're lucky. But in the long term, you're going to be dead in the water unless you treat people right. So thank you, appreciate that, Bob. Next question, and we're going to get into the temple of questions now. Now I've asked every superstar on here, from Sharon Lechter to we had Tim Story, and you name it, Hall of Fame speakers, a lot of people from the movie The Secret. By the way, I'm trying to get Brian Tracy on here, Bob. If you could help me, I've been trying so hard. I got everybody on here, but I haven't gotten Brian Tracy yet, so I'm working on it.
Send me an email and make the invitation to him, and I'll forward it to him for you.
Brilliant, thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Can one book change the world? Maybe 20, 30 seconds.
Can one book change the world?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on what world you want to change. So the world is sliced up into 1,000 different expertise slices, right? So yeah, there's usually one book in that slice of information that all the experts in that arena will point to that one or two or three books that are the classics. And obviously in our space, classic is Think and Grow Rich. So if you don't have a copy of it, go to robertallen.com and opt in, and I'll send you the digital version, 1937 edition of Think and Grow Rich, and the audio version that I recorded. My gift to you. No need for any investment on your part, but that is changing in the next 10 days. So if you don't go now, you won't get it. But Think and Grow Rich, that's the book that got me started. How about you? Think and Grow Rich.
It's funny. Dave Meltzer asked me in an interview yesterday, 2 days ago. I'm getting lose track of time. Yesterday, anyway. Think and Grow Rich. A lot of people think that really influenced me early on. I read it earlier, but I came at this from the academic life.
Yeah.
So I'm part of a series right now where I'm writing a 13 book series on Napoleon Hill's 13 Steps to Riches.
Nice.
With Eric Swanson. You probably know Sharon Lecter's in it. Don Green, endorsed the book. I mean, it's an incredible series. It wasn't until later on in life that now I'm in this space with this. I have a lot of guys like yourself, Bob, in my inner circle now. I realize how important it is. So I'm deep diving in it again. And now I'm cutting the pages up. I'm looking exactly. I'm like, wow, this guy changed presidents' lives. So yeah, it's a different story for me, but I recognize the value now and I'm looking at it from a different lens.
Yeah.
But I know it's important.
Sold 100 million copies and it's influenced millions and millions of people. And it doesn't really tell you how. It gives you 13 principles: desire, faith, auto-suggestion, specialized knowledge, imagination, decision, organized planning, persistence, the power of the mastermind, the mystery of sex transmutation, the brain, the subconscious mind, and the sixth sense. That's all, boils it all down. But it doesn't tell you how to get any of that. It just tells you stories about it. But you need all of those principles if you ever want to make it. So yeah, the power of the mastermind. You got to have a group of people you brainstorm with. That's the book really. And then when it comes to my narrow niche, Nothing Down is the book for real estate, small real estate investors. That's the book. It's classic. Multiple streams of income for people who are more entrepreneurial, because if you're an entrepreneur, you're a serial entrepreneur. And therefore the multiple streams of income resonates with you. You go, yeah, that's what I want. And therefore that's why that book is a classic. And then of course, when it comes to spiritual matters, I read the Bible, I read the Book of Mormon. These are foundational books for me, for my spiritual beliefs. I read them every day because that's how foundational are. Because eventually one day, all of the wealth that I'm creating will go to zero. Well, I'll leave it to my family and my gifts, but my personal wealth, I only can take with me what my capital W wealth. That's my heart, my desires, my passions, my willingness to do what Heavenly Father wants me to do, my soul. Those are the only things I can take. I can't take anything else. So piling up a whole bunch of that stuff right now doesn't really make that much sense to me, It did when I was younger. Oh boy, did it ever. But obviously now, and my car accident kind of proved that to me. So next question.
Thank you, Bob. No, it was a great, brilliant response. Bob, next question. What role has networking played in your life? Maybe 20 seconds.
This is a skill I've not been very good at. I've networked with some of my business partners, but in terms of me being a networker, going in the room and gathering up business cards, it's not a good skill for me. Although I have my database of my personal friends is about 2,000 people, but because it's taken me 50 years to do that, but it's a skill I wish I had cultivated more in my lifetime, because every one of us knows 100 winners, people who've succeeded at something. And every one of those 100 winners knows another 100 winners who have succeeded at something. And every one of those is 3 circles of so by the time you get to the 3rd circle out there, 100 times 100 times 100 is 1,000,000. In other words, you have within your 3 circles of influence 1,000,000 people you can contact, and yet most of us don't contact any of them. And if I were to start it all over again, I would go right to the network, your winners network, and I would cultivate that and give and share and teach and help, find out what their projects were, help them with their projects. And it would have been much more quickly made for me success, but that's the answer to that question.
Thank you, Bob. No, that is a brilliant response. As an extension of that, mentorship, we talked about this already, but can you summarize it in 20 seconds? The question is mentoring important? And actually, second question, who were some of your mentors? And you already mentioned them already. Maybe 20-second summary.
Do you want to make mistakes? Well, then don't have a mentor. And the mistakes you make will cost you 10 times more than it would have cost you if you just had a real good mentor. And if you're buying just a book, it could be 1,000, 10,000 times more expensive for you not to mentor with somebody. That's just silly. And if I had my life to live all over again, I would be assiduously searching out more and more mentors and joining more and more masterminds. It's been more popular in the last 5 years. Back in the early days, hard to put together a mastermind. People just didn't do it. But I would join more masterminds. You know what? One of my students says, I like to be the dumbest person in the room. And for most of my life, I was the smartest guy in the room because they were my students and they were all beginners. So no wonder I was the smartest guy in the room. But I didn't join other rooms where I was the dumbest guy in the room because I was too busy and I just didn't think I needed it. And if I would do my life all over again, I would join 3 or 4 masterminds and involve myself deeply there. But I didn't. Therefore, I made mistakes. It cost me millions of dollars, 100 times more than it would have cost me just to go join a mastermind somewhere, right?
Who was your top, let's say, 2
Covey was mastermind. Paul Jukes was one of my masterminds.
Mentors, you mean?
Mentors, yeah. I got his name on the tip of my tongue, but it'll come to me. Gary Halbert was a marketing mastermind of mine. Jay Abraham is a mentor of mine, who I paid many thousands of dollars. People like that. And then my friends became my mentors. You get certain friends and they, hey, what you doing? And great, let's kind of network with each other. Yeah. I've had maybe 40 or 50 mentors in my lifetime. But I should have had a heck of a lot more, really, if I were to do it again.
Hey, well, you turned out very successful. So thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. Bob, next question is, what are your favorite financial books? Maybe 2 or 3. I think you already mentioned one, Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich.
You can't count your own because we know that your books are already at the top of the list for other people. What's your favorite financial books? Business, money.
I mentioned Influence by Cialdini. That one is preeminently the best book I've ever read on personal persuasion. Yeah, that's exactly who I would have talked to.
Thank
you. And then I got my library just filled with books. I buy books. I buy 3 or 4 books a week. So. And do I ever get through them all? No, I don't. But sometimes just reading the title of the book does it for me. I had somebody come up to me in Singapore and she said, Robert, I'm a millionaire today because of you. Thank you so much. And I said, great, which book did you read? She said, well, Nothing Down. And I said, well, did you like it? And she said, well, actually, I never read it. I just read the title. And I said, well, if Robert says you can buy With Nothing Down, then that's what I'll do. She never read the book.
That's funny.
So yeah, I'll never forget that as long as I live. So
that says a lot about readers,
Yeah, most people never read past the first chapter. Really, that's true. But I like to read the ones that are really profound. I read them over and over again because there's so much juice in each one of them.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate that. Next question. Do we need money to survive? Maybe 10 seconds.
Well, yeah, you need some money in order to survive. Yeah, you do. What you want to be is financially free so that the money you bring in the door gives you the freedom to do what you want to do, and you become your financial. So that's your financial freedom number. What is your financial freedom number? Is it 10,000 a month? Good. Work on all the investments that you can until those investments flow to you 10,000 a month where you don't have to go get it. Most people have to go get the money every day. They have a job or business that requires their presence. You need to make money that doesn't require your presence. Okay.
How about finance? Is finance, the science of finance, is that necessary for everyone? Do you think everyone should learn finance?
Yeah, at least basically, yeah. And this is one thing if I could do over in my life, spend less than you earn. That's the fundamental principle. That's the secret. And most people don't. They get credit cards, they spend more than they earn. They go into debt. It takes them decades to get out. Dumb.
Yeah, the
And
wealthy barber and the poor surgeon.
exactly. And then wealthy barber, exactly. Save 10%. And then give 10%. And those are the three fundamental rules. And I do most of those, but saving 10%, my wife's a good saver, but I'm not. I'm terrible. So, I would have saved 10% of all the millions of dollars that flow through my life, and I just have 10% in a bank right now. Holy smokes. But I don't. I have a lot, but not even close to what I could have had if I hadn't been so stupid, financially stupid. Don't make that mistake.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate you sharing that. Robert, we got 3 more questions left. How important is having a purpose in business, and what is your purpose? Maybe 20 seconds.
My purpose is to inspire and to empower people to achieve their destiny. Inspire means motivate. Empower means tools, systems. So it's mindset and system knowledge. Those things I do better than most people. So that's my purpose. Your purpose, find what is your purpose. Why are you selling these products? Why are you in? If you're just selling them just to make some money, that's not life. Find a product or a service or information that you are benefiting the world as a result of your efforts. Therefore, that's your purpose. And ultimately all boils down to one simple word: love. You have to love your customers. Love them through your products. Love them through your information. Love, 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 love. That's what it's all boils down to. And if you're not loving your customers or loving your business, don't do that business. Find something where you love it.
But you need a purpose, Bob. Sorry to interject here. You need a purpose in business. Would you agree? If you're going to be in business, you got to have.
Yeah. Your purpose is to love your customers. That's your purpose.
Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. 2 more questions left, Bob. What would you like to accomplish in the next 10 years or so, and why?
I have 10 goals by my birthday. 10 dones, actually. I don't have time to explain them all to you, but I'm going to write 3 books. I'm going to weigh 190 pounds on my birthday next year. I'm going to have 1 million views per week. I already did that. I'm at 3 million views a week now.
Wow.
I'm going to love my family. Those are the 5 people in my life. I'm going to put God first. That's the infinity sign. I go through the numbers of these 10 numbers every day, and I wrote them down today again in my journal. I write them down every day, all 10 of them. And then at the end of my birthday, when my birthday comes, I'll set another set for another 3 or 4 years in the future. But right now I'm working on those 10.
And you're going to have this by your birthday in
May 20th, 2023.
Okay, we're going to have another interview if you're up for it.
Okay, you're putting me on the spot. That's good. I'm run out of time now, Tony. So
okay, just one last question, Bob. It was the last one. What do you want to be your legacy to the world? If you want to say it in 1 sentence, what's your legacy if you put on your tombstone?
To keep on giving, the knowledge that I've organized and created, for it to continue to be found and available for those people who are searching for it long after I'm here. That's my legacy.
Thank you, Bob. Bob, I appreciate you being here, and honored again to have you here, sir. The floor is yours. If you want to say anything else before we close out, you want to share your websites,
Yeah, yeah. If
anything.
you're interested in spiritual things, go to my website, robertallen.com. And on the top right-hand corner, there's a conversation called Real Wealth. Read that tab, and that will take you into what I really believe. I'm totally transparent about that. And then I do a little every once a month, I get together with people who are interested in that. So that's where I would go if you want my spiritual beliefs. You want to know the books that I love, the ones that I think you should read. There are 25 of them. And there's a tab there that mentions every one of the 25 books that I think you should read, including some of my own. And then you order the free stuff on my podcast, my opt-in, and must run. See you, bud.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Appreciate you, buddy. Okay, folks, you've been watching the Dr. Finance Live podcast. This is Dr. Anthony Criniti IV. Check out the website here, drfinance.info, for more information. Also, don't forget, if you're interested, check out Bob's sites and his books as well. They're very important for, I believe, for finance as well. These are my 3 major books. The Necessity of Finance. The first one, I wrote it for my students about 10 years ago. And then I had The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance. Right after that, it was early 2014. And then The Survival of the Richest was my final book in 2016 that I actually authored. So as I mentioned earlier, I got 13 books I'm working on as a co-author, but called 13 Steps to Riches. But this was my big one. Definitely check that out. It's got a lot of my conclusions in there. For the masses, though, I would say this book right here, The Most Important Lessons in Economics and Finance. If you want a history and just want to learn about finance in general as a finance student, those start with the first one. Okay, and my evolution of thought have worked from in that order too. 1, 2, and then 3 to get to the conclusions in the last book. So with that said, folks, I appreciate you guys. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing interview today. Bob is a legend in his field. He's changed a lot of lives, and hopefully we'll have him on Clubhouse on our stage at the end of November, or some Friday at the end of November. I'm thinking the maybe 3rd or 4th week. So definitely stay tuned for that. This is 2022, by the way. So thank you. Appreciate you guys again. We're going to see you on the next episode. We've had a lot of fantastic guests that just came through here in the past few weeks, and we got a lot more lined up. So again, drfinance.info. Don't forget to subscribe to the website, the newsletter. It's very, very important. And confirm your subscription, and follow, like, and comment on any of the interviews that you like as well. So thank you again, and see you guys on the next one. Bye-bye now.